Chad here, and welcome back to the farm. It's pretty well 4.5 years since we've had this farm, and I wanted to talk today about the 5 main reasons why my wife and I chose to switch it up and change our lifestyle to become more rural and country in this kind of small farm lifestyle. There are probably lots and lots of reasons. I'm just going to focus on my 5 top reasons. I put a decent amount of thought into this, and maybe some people will be inspired, or maybe it will change your way of thinking, but that's not really my intention. I'm just trying to share my own personal experience, and I thought I'd reflect a little into these 5 main reasons throughout the video. And they're really not going to be in any particular order. Now, the first reason is mental health. Maybe some of you can relate. You're working a job, maybe you're happy, maybe you're not happy, and maybe you've plateaued. For whatever the reason, you're feeling stressed and maybe anxious about what's going on in the world, what's going on in your life, family stuff. And one of the reasons why we switched to this kind of a lifestyle, I can tell you, is because of the stress relieving nature of country living. Now, this also goes hand in hand with anxiety. And I mean, for me personally, I just enjoy being outdoors. I'm happy to bring myself a little bit closer to nature, try to get away from the hustle and bustle of the big city life and, all the noise that goes along with that and just the overall urban atmosphere. There's just something about being able to breathe in fresh air and not deal with as much traffic and the pollution and the noise and the crime. And I mean, there's a whole long list of things that are really different between the urban lifestyle and the country lifestyle. And I'm definitely on the country lifestyle side of things. I was born to live this way. There's nothing better for your soul than a little bit of Mother Nature. And I think people in general aren't really aware of this until they've actually experienced the country living. A lot of people are thinking they might want that, but you never really know until you get into it. And again, for me personally, I feel like I was born for this kind of stuff. I was born for being outside. Even the noise of the animals, I feel it's just this natural aspect to it. We have geese, we have the turkeys gobbling, we have roosters crowing in the chicken house. And I mean, it's just, I wish I could have been doing this a lot earlier in my life, I can tell you. I didn't grow up in rural. I grew up in the city of Toronto. My parents never had any inkling of moving out of the city. My dad worked for the Transit Commission in Toronto, and it's just he spent his whole life driving a bus. And that's how we grew up. It's only since I started really thinking about this that my wife and I decided to pull the trigger and make our way to the countryside. Reason number 2 is self-reliance. Now, there's a few different words to describe self-reliance. A lot of people will use sustainability or living a more sustainable lifestyle. And honestly, I think it would be extremely difficult to live a 100% self-sustainable lifestyle in today's day and age. And that's just simply because of the way our countries work, the way our governments work, the way property taxes work. And maybe there are some regions where you could build an off-grid homestead in an unorganized township, that you don't really pay taxes, or at least a lot of taxes, but it's just the way life is nowadays. I drive a car, my wife drives a car, we have a house, we need natural gas to heat our house, all those things you can't do for yourself. I'm wearing clothes and shoes and eyeglasses and hats and gloves. I'm not making all that stuff for myself. It's not self-sustainable in that respect. But it's more so along the lines of trying to get closer to self-reliance, endeavoring as much as possible to be less reliant on others. And I'm speaking specifically about growing some of your own fruits and vegetables, raising some of your own meat for the freezer, things of that nature that will produce food for you and your family. Now, last year I invested in a portable sawmill, which will allow me to take trees from our forests and mill them on the mill and produce my own lumber. So even there again, maybe just a little bit closer to self-sufficiency by investing in that machine. And there are other simple things that someone can do on their homestead that will help in getting closer to self-sustainability, like helping with your soil amendments or composting your own so you can produce your own regenerative garden soil, so on and so forth. Reason number 3 is food security. And I'm talking about not having the pressure of going hungry. Here at our 90-acre farm now, although it's not a production farm, we're more of a farmstead, homestead type of farm. We do lease out 40 acres of hay to our neighbor, but other than that, we're not producing anything on a production type scale. But some of the things that we've accomplished on our farm already that will help us with food security is that we built a 5,000 square foot garden, and that's kind of been an ongoing challenge. Year over year we've been adding to it, and we will be adding to it again this year. And I think that's just an ongoing year over year adventure working in the garden. But that produces an awful lot of fodder for the animals. It produces an awful lot of food for us in general. We also set aside 2 acres of land to plant an orchard. Now, we didn't plant from seed or anything. We already had 5 old apple trees there. So we planted 44, 46 other trees of our own. This includes plums, apples, pears, peaches, cherries. There's an Asian pear. There's some black walnuts. There's some chestnuts. And we mixed in some nitrogen fixing trees like honey locust to help balance out the soil. But really, if you think about it, an orchard is something that will provide you food literally for decades to come. So, if you grow your trees right and they grow and they're healthy, you're never going to run out of fruit, really. And speaking of food for decades, that also includes berry patches. We planted a pretty big 40 bush blueberry patch. These are high bush blueberries, and it's been a couple years now that we've been getting a little harvest out of it, and as the bushes grow a little bit bushier and a little bit bigger, we should be seeing a better yield. But we've also started a berry patch last year. We will be continuing that this year, and that's raspberries and blackberries. And actually, in addition to the berry patch, we're trying to make a section of it like a little miniature vineyard, with grapes. My wife really wants to try her hand at growing some grapes, so we're hoping to be able to do a little bit of work in that area this year again. Because we're raising ducks and geese and chickens and now turkeys that we added last year, eggs are never really an issue here at our property. We are constantly having a supply of eggs. It does dip down in the winter, but never completely runs out. There's always some eggs trickling in. The wife cooks the eggs for the dogs, she cooks the eggs for the pigs, she cooks the eggs for the cats, and it's just a good source of protein for everybody, including ourselves. My wife's also been dabbling with canning and food preservation and freezing. She does some blanching of the vegetables and freezing. She did a lot of that at the end of the harvest season last year, actually, and we still have a lot of tomatoes in the jars. We have a lot of pasta sauce. She did the tomato paste. Oh man, she made pickles. She did her own sauces. She minced up her own garlic. Like, there's a whole slew of things that she did. She did jam last year. We got strawberry jam out of it. And I mean, the possibilities are endless. The more we learn about this as we go, the better we'll be too. But the possibilities are endless when it comes to canning and jarring and preservation. You know what I mean? The 4th reason why my wife and I chose this country living over urban living is food health. I don't know if that's really the right term, but what I'm talking about specifically is trying to eat better, trying to live better by eating better, getting a better understanding where exactly my food comes from, how much actual work goes into creating the food and growing the food and raising the food, understanding pesticides and herbicides and GMOs and how all of our corn today at the grocery store is all genetically modified to grow big and strong with lots of ears of corn and can tolerate drought and things like this. And I don't know if that's the way I want to go. I don't know if it's the way my wife wants to go. We definitely don't want to be exposing ourselves to herbicides and pesticides and antibiotics in the animals and steroids and growth hormones. And I mean, I could just be talking off the cuff here, but I mean, you never know. It's like you can't trust anybody nowadays. So if we do it ourselves, I 100% know that it is fully natural and organic food that we're growing and raising. Trying our best to eat chemical-free, eat organic, and reduce or eventually eliminate highly processed foods. And then, of course, what exactly is highly processed foods? You know, it's like trying to eliminate fast food or prepared foods out of your diet, eating real food, not packaged foods. You know what I mean? Like one of my favorite foods are burgers, like cheeseburgers, hamburgers, you know? And my wife has this killer recipe. Whenever she makes me a burger, it is the best burger that I've ever had. And she's really perfected knowing what I like, how I like my burger to be prepared. But when you go to the grocery store and you buy like a box of patties, you know, like burger patties, and you look at the ingredients list, it doesn't just say beef. There's a whole big long list of all the junk that they put in it in order to preserve it for the time that it takes to store until you can buy it. And then you're probably putting it in the freezer too anyways to prolong that whole thing. When my darling makes me a burger, okay, there's beef in it, and she always uses the extra lean beef because I'm already a pudgy guy. And then she has like onions, garlic. She doesn't put any salt in it because there's already salt in the mustard that I put on, you know, so you don't need to add more salt. But that's all she puts in it. I think she puts some breadcrumbs, maybe an egg or something like that. But other than that, it's just 100% healthy burger, you know what I mean? In today's day and age that everybody has a super fast and busy life, very few families can actually have one breadwinner. The homemaker gone now? It's like in order for you to afford life, two parents have to work. And then the kids get suffered because of it, right? I mean, I think that's just the way life goes nowadays. Unless one person really makes a lot of money, then you don't have to worry about it. The fifth main reason why I really enjoy this lifestyle is the sense of accomplishment I get. The rewarding feeling that I get, the sense of pride that I get from everything I do on the farm. Everything. It could be me building something. It could be building a relationship with my cats. Definitely a rewarding feeling after I finish some kind of project or after you're actually tasting the food that you've grown or raised yourself. And there's a certain level of pride and joy that I get from doing all this stuff. You can almost not even put a value on it. That's just everybody's personal thing. But I love doing this stuff. Love. I am in my element. Even in the middle of winter, I'm in my element. You see? No gloves. This is the living for me. I wish I could have been doing this a lot earlier in life. It took my wife and I a lot of years to save up enough money. All the animals are getting mad at me for talking to the camera. I'm not talking to them, especially the geese, the turkeys. So funny. Listen to all these natural sounds. It's just amazing. I love it. And it's going to be hopefully melting soon. Still a bit chilly today, but I'm hopeful that some of the snow will start melting and we can head into our spring season. We're going to start figuring out what we want to plant this year and what kind of plans. That's all the fun stuff. Shoveling snow is not fun at all. So you can either get inspired by some of my own personal reasons and make them your own reasons, or you can take it with a grain of salt, because really everybody's going to have their own desires, their own dreams. I figure maybe it's my turn to kind of inspire some people the best I can, and that's not trying to toot my own horn or anything. I'm just saying you never know how you can inspire others. And it's never too late. This is another thing about living this kind of life. I'm almost 50 years old now, and we're 4.5 years into the farm. So, I don't know, I still got a lot of life in me, a lot of strength, a lot of endurance. I can still do and live and build and grow and exercise and do all the things I need to do for this kind of life. And this is living, in my opinion. So I really do appreciate you listening and watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. Drop me some comments on what you thought of the video, maybe some of what your reasons are. Maybe you agree with me on some, maybe you disagree with me on some. It's all good. Let's just have a nice discussion about it, okay? And thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.